Welcome everyone to a PC without a graphics card because they are too darn expensive and difficult to get. I've been wanting to build one of these boys for a while now. I figured now is the best time to do it. Now the purpose of this build is not to spend the least amount of money as possible. It's to build a PC that can play games good enough for now and leave extra space to add a graphics card down the line when the prices go down and they become more available. So this is going to be a decent PC, but it can be a lot better once you add a graphics card. Anyway, without taking too much time, here are the specs we'll be using for this build. Once again, no graphics card, but we do have the Ryzen 5 5600G. The CPU is going to come in clutch because it has some of the best integrated graphics out there. You'll see later in this video just how it performs. We'll also be using the stock fan that comes with the processor. And for the motherboard, we have the Gigabyte B550MD S3H AC. The AC in the name is because it comes with Wi-Fi antennas. I don't use them in this video, but it's just an FYI. There is the same model without the antennas that has to go plugged in via Ethernet. That one's a little bit cheaper, but once again, you don't get the Wi-Fi antennas with that one. Our memory modules come from Corsair, 16 gigs of Corsair Vengance RAM, in a stunning white that looks incredible with the lighting. Our power supply is from Red Dragon. It's the GC PC006 750 watt beast. It's fully modular, meaning you can take out the cables that you aren't using, makes it much easier for cable management. And I know 750 watts is way overkill for this build, but once again, you're leaving extra room to add a graphics card down the line and maybe some fans. For the first time on the channel, we have an M.2 SSD in a PC build video. I try to make this build as easy as possible, and the SK Hynix Gold P31 is here for that. It's 1 terabyte and it's incredibly fast. The case is the Montech Flyer Micro ATX case. It's got 2 pre-installed fans, a light bar in the front, and an acrylic side panel. So that's basically it for the components. It feels very empty without a graphics card, but anyway, let's get on with the build and performance. You know, at this point in the build, this is probably the easiest computer I've ever assembled. Obviously it's not done, I still have to put it in the case and connect everything. But as for the motherboard, that's pretty much it. Because we don't have a GPU and we aren't going to be connecting any other drives. Our main drive is that one right there. The bulk of it is already done. Alright, now it's looking all shiny and elegant. It's fancy. Too bad there's no graphics card, but the 5600G performs like a beast. Obviously, I'm gonna test GTA 5. If you've followed the channel for more than a couple videos, you know that I always test GTA 5. It's just because everyone plays it. Anyway, full HD with basically all the settings set up to high. It runs buttery smooth. I think the only setting that wasn't all the way up was the grass setting. Grass just takes up a lot of power. But yeah, as expected, GTA 5 runs great with virtually no dips in frame rate. I was testing it quite a bit even off camera, and I didn't notice any major drop in frames. Moving on, because I am running the graphics just off the 5600G, I wanted to test Far Cry 3, 4, and 5. Going from an older game to a newer one. I don't have Far Cry 6 yet, I'll have to get it soon. But anyway, Far Cry 3 runs like a charm as expected. High settings at full HD. I would have been disappointed if Far Cry 3 failed, because it's over 10 years old I think. But of course, it was also buttery smooth. Far Cry 4 with the right settings was also flowing nicely. High settings was noticeably choppy. I mean, you could play it, but it wasn't going to be an enjoyable experience and you would surely fall, in choppy territory. And I think medium felt just right. I don't have an FPS counter, but it was definitely around 60 FPS. Now, Far Cry 5 is probably the most realistic test. Most of the games people are going to try to run are going to be like Far Cry 5 or something, a game that's fairly recent. I ran the built-in benchmark with high and medium settings at full HD, and then I played a little bit on low settings, and low settings felt the best. On the benchmark, high settings was noticeably choppy even on video. Sometimes you see it in person, but you can't really notice it on video. In this case, you were able to notice it on video for both high and medium settings. But once I played on low settings, it still wasn't like completely smooth, like you're not getting 70 FPS or anything. I don't have an FPS counter, but it was definitely playable, maybe in the 50s in some areas. That it was not nearly as choppy as it was with high or medium settings. So Far Cry 5, I would play it at low settings. And it's not like low settings looks horrible. Far Cry 5 is a naturally good looking game, so even if you're running at low settings, it still has pretty good graphics. I was surprised. And if you're playing on a 24 or 22 inch display or something around that size, it'll look just fine. And just for fun, I played Black Ops Zombies, the original Black Ops. Kino der Toten was the map. After 11 years, I still don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, full HD in the highest settings, running incredibly smooth on the 5600G. I don't know about you guys, but I could play this game just running around in circles on the stage and blowing everyone away with the thunder gun. I can play it for days. Alright, with all the gameplay out of the way, the PC looks great inside of the Montech Flyer case. It was definitely the easiest PC I've ever built. It only took like an hour. I have nothing plugged in on the back like hard drives or fan splitters. It's very quiet, and the 2 included fans should be good enough for now, but if you're doing some heavy gaming, you may want to add an additional one in the front for intake, and later on, when you add a graphics card, you can replace the 2 fans and just overload the case with as many as you want. I mean, you have space for 5, so yeah, you can fill up all 5 and you'll have no issues with the power supply because the 750 watts is more than enough for that. I do want to say that the M.2 SSD is a game changer. No cables needed. It only takes like a minute to install. It's incredibly fast. It boots up the computer, files, games in no time at all. This is not a sponsored video, but if you're not using an M.2 SSD or even just a regular 2.5 inch SSD, you should definitely make the switch. If you're still using a mechanical hard drive, you're really missing out. We only use 2 RAM sticks, so you still have another 2 RAM slots available for another 16 gigs if you want to do that as well, and just make it 32 down the line. But yeah, I mean, the computer is very decent now, but slowly you can upgrade it without, you know, swapping out parts. You can just basically add on to it and it'll become a great PC. The total cost for this PC was around $700. Prices are high in general, but this is considered inexpensive in today's market. If we would have added a graphics card, it would have been over $1,000 easily. Anyway, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always,
screw you guys, I'm going home.